side is Andrew Wang, who's written Prelude Serrate, or is it Prelude Serrate? I haven't decided yet. Can go either way. I've never heard of a serrated prelude. Yeah, but Williamson-Sonoma has some amazing stuff. So, what does it mean?
Sharp.
Sharp, a sharp prelude, but it's in C major. There's hardly a sharp in sight.
I know.
Andrew, where are you from, and tell us your age.
I'm 14 and I'm from Johns Creek, Georgia.
Beautiful. And I noticed that the MP3, the recording you sent in, was actually not a MIDI file, not a computer-generated file. So this is presumably not the first performance of this work.
Correct.
And where was the first performance of this work?
My composition teacher, Thomas Ludwig, used to have an orchestra and he performed it.
What happened to his orchestra?
It ran into economic troubles.
Okay, that can happen. So this is Prelude Serrate, and it's by Andrew or Panda Wang?
Both.
It's by Andrew and Panda Wang. Neoclassical or even neo-rococo way or something. And you've used actually a fairly concise orchestra. You didn't use all the instruments that we had available. Are you aware of that?
Maybe.
An enigmatic artist. You're going to go far. You presented us with a couple of fun rhythmic challenges. Let's just kind of, by way of rehearsing it, do a couple of bits slowly, and it will help us hear your twisted imagination a little bit better. Let us take, let's first of all work backwards. Here's an interesting effect. This is at measure 22, woodwinds alone. Let's first try it main tempo and see if we can make it work rhythmically. So we're starting at measure 22. Now let's play measure 23 slowly, and I'll do it in 4. Not quite solid rhythmically. 1 and 2 and a little faster. 1. Often for great musicians, it's a matter not so much of following precisely what the conductor's doing, but understanding how you fit with what goes on around you. And so playing it slowly isn't because it's hard to play, we need to practice it slowly. It's because it helps people understand where they fit rhythmically. So now let's go back to that one more bar, 22, and try it in tempo. The only person who's playing on regularly 1 and 2 and is second bassoon. So in that 2/4 bar, you can, I'm sorry, it's first bassoon. It's the lower line, but it's first bassoon, which is part of the twisted aspect of this. Okay, here we go, measure 22. Strings have a rhythmic challenge as well. Let's look at beginning measure 15. It's partly, again, understanding how it's organized. Everybody measure 15. The way Andrew builds it here is, or Panda, builds it to the end of 18, into 19, and then mezzo forte pulls back. So really, let's explode into the peak, and then pull it back 2 degrees. 15 again, please. So if the energy can come from seconds and violas, and you're playing off of that. Now, let's look at this. And I want to play this for you 2 ways. If everybody look at measure 30. In measure 33, we have a meno mosso, which means less motion or slower. So we're going to do this one of 2 ways. The first way is right where it's marked, right after that first beat, instantly slower. Okay? The other way will be, we'll make it a little more gradual. So instantly slower. Here we are, measure 30, and I think, audience, you'll hear where it immediately slows down. Say, and I'm going to check in with you in a moment, and let's just say the meno mosso is very legato. So everything is very much sustained low, no jolting, okay? Now we're going to do this gradually so that in the mezzo piano bar, we're going to add a retard. Measure 30. So talk to us about that transition and what that meno mosso does musically in your mind.
I just make it several seconds and then just put a fancy word at top.
Fancy word, 2 words, meno mosso. Did you like the gradual slowing down or do you like it instantaneous?
Gradual.
Okay, so shall we add a retard in maybe the previous bar?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. Now I have another question. So, Tomasz and Joni, if you look at measure 37, previously, and in violoncello too in 38, the 16ths were slurred, right? And now they're separate. Is that what you want? In other words, here, up, 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 beep, up, up, used to be da, and now you have da, 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 da.
Yes.
You want them separate. Okay, so we keep it just that way. What's that? Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, good. What about general comments from you all? what works. Is there anything really awkward that you get to this point and you go, that's uncomfortable? Victor loves to put his hand up and talk. Yeah. Bar 11. Yeah, good. Okay, so we have a bass clef for a horn. Now, sometimes we get into this and the audience goes, oh, please, this is so technical. If you're playing a transposing instrument, would you stand at the moment, please? Basses, I expect you to stand. Yeah. Now, what this means is, and both clarinets and the horns would stand, right? Trumpets would be standing. Some of the percussion were playing like a glockenspiel, celeste player would stand. Thank you. What this means is they're playing what they see on the page. When they play it, it comes out differently than it would for all the people who stayed seated. If you're playing the piano and you see a C on the page, or let's make this simpler, you see a D written on the page, and you're playing a violin, you play a D, it sounds a D. But if you're playing a B-flat trumpet, it sounds a whole step lower. It doesn't sound a C. It doesn't sound a D, it sounds a C. And it's a fairly confusing thing. Now, our second horn player has raised a further question. But before we get there, this is a C score, which means that what I'm looking at is how the music sounds. So I see a C, even if it's for a horn, and it's sounding a C. I actually prefer a transposed score. I prefer to see what it is that what they have in front of them. So if the musician is playing a C and it's an F horn, I expect to see a G. You don't have to understand that, but the composers have to understand that, right? Now, therefore, I don't know what you have in front of you. I can't answer your question. What I have is a low C, the second octave of the cello, and that's all I have. And that's the concert pitch. So now that answers your question. But what is the answer to your question? Okay, so he's asking this because he's in bass clef, and there are two ways of interpreting that. As a horn, you can go up a fourth or down a fifth, and you're going up. You're going up. Okay. So there's one really good example, and I have lots of other examples why I'd rather see a transposed score. Eric, you have an impression about this?
I actually like to see what I'm going to hear often. So for music written today, I feel like continuity and just having the idea of this is what I'm going to hear and it's in front of me. I think then, in the classical and romantic time, I like to see what was of the vernacular to write it. So going back and forth, I'd say.
Yeah, that's right. Because the convention actually relates to the time period in which it's written, often. Anyway, Andrew, Panda, it's a wonderful piece. Congratulations on being a runner-up. You're 13 years old. We expect to see you here for 5 more years. 14. Now he's 14. Fantastic. Next in the hot seat, and this is one of our winners this year, Julian Galezi. If you come forward, Julian.